Welcome to Catholic Messenger Conversations podcast. Today our conversation focuses on the season of creation, which begins September 1st and concludes October 4th on the feast day of St. Francis of Assisi. Our conversation partners are Deacon Kent Ferris, the Davenport Diocese Social Action Director, and Linda Myers, who chairs the Social Justice Commission for St. Thomas More Parish in Coralville. Let's get the conversation rolling. Deacon Kent, how does our diocese plan to celebrate or commemorate the season of creation this year?
The diocese will celebrate the season with prayer, beginning with Vespers on Sunday, September 1st. On Saturday, September 14th, morning prayer on a local farm will be offered, and we encourage pastors and parishes to reference the closing of the season on Friday, October 4th, the memorial of St. Francis of Assisi, the patron saint of ecology. Learning resources from the global Laudato Si movement and the Catholic Climate Covenant here in the United States will be shared with parishes, and then parishes, religious orders, and university program offerings will be noted via our Season of Creation calendar on the diocesan website.
Very good. And what time is the Vespers on September 1st?
That would be at 4 p.m.
And that's at
St. Anthony Parish here in
Davenport. Great. Yep. Linda, how does St. Thomas More Parish plan to celebrate or commemorate the season of creation this year?
Well, we will start on September 1st. Father is going to include a prayer. That will be a communal prayer for everyone from the Council of Bishops. It's one of the prayers for the care of creation. Then we are going to have outdoor stations of the cross like we did last year. One will be Thursday, September 12th at 6 p.m., and the other will be Friday, September 13th, following 9 a.m. Mass. And then on Sunday, September 15th, we're going to have an event for families to do arts and crafts, storytelling, and music related to the care for creation. And then on September 20th, we're going to have a peaceful blessing after 9 a.m. Mass. And then Father will do the blessing of the pets on October 6th at 12:15 p.m.
Very good. How would you describe your parish's commitment to care for God's creation? I understand you have a green team.
Right. Our green team is sort of a subcommittee of our Social Justice Commission, and we've been very active in promoting recycling and reuse of items. One of the things that we've been doing is, instead of using paper products for meals, coffees, whatever they're going to have at church, we're using real dishes and then washing them. And then we also recycle paper, plastic, cardboard, cans. Actually, our members take care of that every week at church. And we have families that take our composting home. So we keep coffee grounds and food scraps for meals. And then we have individual families who take that home with them to compost, but we're hoping to get our own composter once our new church is ready.
Oh, that's great.
Another thing...
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Well, I was just going to say, you mentioned the church. I'm wondering what elements of Care for Creation has the parish considered in planning that expansion project that's underway, and how are those efforts progressing?
Well, they started work on the church in April, and it's supposed to be done, I think, May or June of 2025. We're basically adding our worship space. So the initial plans had a very large worship space, and so that's being added, and we're going to do upgrades in our basement gathering area, the lower level. That'll have more industrial dishwashers so that we can accommodate using dishes for large events like our fish fries. They're doing a lot of energy-efficient items were included in the mechanical design related to heating and air conditioning, and trying to make sure that we're using the most efficient and the least hard on the environment, because we're going to have a bigger space. We're going to have all LED light fixtures with dimming capabilities and occupancy sensors, and we're going to have a lot of exterior windows for light, which will be very good, and it'll provide daylighting control. And we have roller shades for those, so we can use those to cool things off if it gets too hot. We're going to increase our recycling and make our recycling more user-friendly so that more parishioners can help out. We hope to have our own composter. We're going to add water bottle fillers.
Very good.
So those are some of the things
Those
we're
are
doing.
some of the things. Okay. And I was wondering, too, are you planning, I think there are some plans, if possible, to do solar heating?
Yes. That'll be after we get all of this new construction done and paid for. We've done some research on solar energy, and so we hope to, in the future, add solar panels for the church.
Great. And how do you think the activities you've planned for Care for Creation Month in the parish enhance God's creation? How do you think it's really going to help?
I think it helps just to educate people and bring things to the forefront, show people, that the Pope writes about the season of creation every year, and that it's very important that we get involved in making our environment as friendly as possible, the least wasteful as possible. And we really talk a lot about what we can do in our own area, in our own neighborhoods. And I think that's really important because I think it can get overwhelming if you just talk about what's happening all over the world. I mean, I think that's part of it. But what you can do for your own area, your own neighborhood, is important too.
I appreciate that. And in fact, we have encouraged people to read the Catholic Messenger. We have an article about the Care for Creation, season of creation. And in our editorial, we mentioned St. Thomas More's Green Team had created some reflections that offer individuals and communities ways to really think about how they can be good stewards of God's creation. So that's a good read, and that's in the that's going to be in the August 28th issue of the Catholic Messenger, and you can always look at that online as well. And Deacon Kent, I was going to ask you, what progress can you report on the Diocese of Davenport's Laudato Si action platform, and can you explain that a little bit, because that was a huge undertaking that really pays attention to creation and stewardship.
So as a reminder, the diocese established a Laudato Si action plan when Bishop Zinkula, now Archbishop Zinkula, was here. And we undertook a 7-year plan, but it has a much longer lifespan than that, in so much as a goal was established so that we would be net zero with carbon emissions at St. Vincent Center, the Chancery, by 2050. So in this past year, probably one of the most significant developments, even prior to last season, was the establishment of mid-project goals while we still had Bishop Zinkula with us. Though what we have done since then is the Diocese of Davenport has entered into a working relationship with Trane Company, having identified a significant opportunity to upgrade the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, the HVAC system, at St. Vincent Center. By way of the agreement, a complete assessment and audit and a comprehensive plan for energy reduction and HVAC system replacements and upgrades will be undertaken. So this is something that we had not necessarily anticipated playing out, but again, it came about because a young adult Catholic parishioner who had studied at St. Ambrose University and so was inspired by the teaching of the church and his professor, Father Bud Grant, reached out to the diocese upon learning that we had a plan and said, there may be some energy efficiencies that we can help you realize in the short term. So this arrangement at improvements to the HVAC system will be what we anticipate working on in the next 1 to 2 years as we continue to work on a much longer term plan.
And what are other parishes or dioceses, and what other parishes and dioceses have committed, I shouldn't say dioceses, what other parishes and dioceses and entities have committed to the Laudato Si action plan and the platform, or are engaged in intentional stewardship of the earth efforts?
The thing that I find most amazing about working in the Diocese of Davenport, and if you look at globally, they refer to it as the Laudato Si movement, and it's comprised of 6 or 7 different sectors, including dioceses, including parishes, Catholic higher ed institutions, religious orders. And in each of those sectors, we actually have good neighbors that are within the diocese that have done amazing work. Congregation of Humility of Mary, our next-door neighbors, the Clinton Franciscans within the religious sector have undertaken some pretty ambitious projects of their own, including establishing their own Laudato Si action plan. St. Ambrose University, our neighbors to the south, have done some incredible things on campus. Their Sustainability Week, looking at solar projects and other ways at achieving greater energy efficiency, in addition to what they teach the next generation of learners in the classrooms. They've really covered their sector particularly well. In addition to St. Thomas More in Coralville, St. John Vianney has also established a Laudato Si action plan, which was referenced in previous messenger articles. So the thing that we want to be able to do every season is to encourage a few more parishes and a few more individuals and families to look at the Laudato Si movement globally and the Catholic Climate Covenant nationally, and think about how they may be able to live more intentionally, simply, and do so in a way that upholds the dignity of creation.
And how is the Diocese of Davenport collaborating with these other entities on the Laudato Si action platform initiative and the season of creation?
Again, because we almost share borders with Assumption High School, St. Ambrose University, Congregation of Humility of Mary, we've had periodic conversations, informal conversations amongst the four entities to talk about the projects that we have, the efforts that we're undertaking in order to kind of gain energy from what others are doing, always mindful of the possibility that there may be some that we can actually work on collaboratively. If a neighbor is undertaking a solar project, if they've done the work and have vetted the companies that would provide it, that may actually be beneficial to the others of us that's kind of sitting around the table if and when we get to the point where we're able to add solar in the way that St. Thomas More in Coralville is beginning to think about.
Very good. Are there any specific projects right now that you're looking at with, like, say, St. Ambrose and Sisters of Humility, since they're so close? I mean, Sisters of Humility, the Congregation of the Humility of Mary is right next door to the Chancery.
So biology professor Dennis Teresi at St. Ambrose University, Sister Johanna Rickel, Rich Hatfield at work have talked about the possibility of how we provide water and for the garden space that St. Ambrose uses that's very near to St. Vincent Center, and also looking at what it would mean to begin composting in a more earnest way. And because we are so close as neighbors, that is a smaller project that may actually benefit all three of the Catholic organizations or institutions that we just mentioned.
And before I forget, could you mention one of the big projects, or to me it seemed like a big project, that the Chancery has already undertaken or completed regarding the Laudato Si action plan?
The lighting system has been changed, as Linda mentioned, at St. Thomas More, moving away and having only LED lighting. God bless Rich Hatfield in maintenance for having pretty much him and Dave, his assistant, undertaken switching out the lighting within the past year, within the first year. That's been an incredible savings, one that we'll see more over time. But that's been something that we've identified that was within our reach to do and did so in order to kind of help with momentum on the bigger projects.
Oh, that sounds great. So we're going to be getting a new bishop in the midst of this season. Well, actually more towards the tail end probably. But on September 27th, Bishop Dennis Walsh will be ordained and installed as our bishop. How do you plan to approach these initiatives and this effort with him?
I have to back up first, as I will do on occasion with these types of efforts, and referencing Archbishop Zinkula. He spoke fondly of his caring for creation as a kid growing up on a farm, on a family farm. While he was here, he met with 3 college students who challenged him to establish a Laudato Si action plan, write to those in the diocese of the importance of caring for creation and commit to this net zero carbon emission by 2050. Each of the challenges he accepted. Additionally, the working relationship now in place for an energy reduction in HVAC system comes again, as I'd mentioned earlier, by a young adult Catholic who was inspired, having seen what the diocese was willing to undertake and what he himself saw as something that he could lend his faith commitment and his expertise early in his career. Praying and learning and acting clearly had a part in the lives of Archbishop and those young adults. I have faith that the Holy Spirit will inspire others to appreciate the importance of being in right relationship with God, with neighbor, and the created world. And I'm excited to see the ways that Bishop-elect Walsh will lead on this and many other matters. So I'm going to leave it wide open to the movement of the Holy Spirit, because I don't know Bishop-elect Walsh enough to know what he has as far as his own lived experiences, but I know full well that there will be others that will be drawn to this effort and to the diocese that he may have some conversations with that may also form our pathway forward.
And I'm wondering, too, can you just address, what the season of creation means to you as a secular Franciscan?
Caring for creation is in my Franciscan DNA. I love being out the door before sunrise for a morning walk or a run. I love equally the setting of the sun. Praise be you, my Lord, through brother wind, and through the air cloudy and serene, in every kind of weather, through which you give sustenance to your creatures. That is from St. Francis of Assisi. The season reminds me to give praise be you, my Lord, through, meaning all that is in the created world. And it's also to recommit to doing better at caring for creation, both locally and as part of the global community.
Wonderful. Deacon Kent and Linda, this is a question for both of you. What are some of the challenges in stewardship of creation? Linda, why don't I start with you?
I think, again, it's communicating and educating. I think just encouraging, again, that we can do things globally and we can do things locally. And, we can plant a garden. We can participate in a community garden. We can buy local foods and local products. We can support people from other countries through fair trade buying and spending, and look at that in our daily lives. Even the simplest thing of bringing reusable bags to the grocery store are things people don't always think about. And I think once you get them started thinking about that on a local level, that you can really pull in a lot of the other things that are happening globally.
Oh, very good. Kent, what about you? I mean, there's some costs involved, aren't there?
There are, and there are some challenges, and you could become overwhelmed pretty quickly. I think every year Pope, in this case Pope Francis, promulgates a letter months in advance of the season, and it's always informative to look at what he chooses to highlight in order to kind of influence how we celebrate the season in any given year. This particular year, the theme being hope and act with creation. I think that in addition to the work that we do with legislative advocacy, I think the way that we model our commitment to caring for creation is something that we can bring with us as we meet with elected officials. We can talk and demonstrate our level of commitment and kind of get out in front of the band, so to speak, and actually show them what is possible and also our level of commitment as constituents. So those can be daunting challenges, but I think that Pope Francis was prophetic in identifying this year's theme, which is one to remain hope-filled while also acting for creation.
Very good. And it's not just Pope Francis, is it? I understand that we go back as far as Pope Leo XIII, who was Pope from 1878 to 1903. And he spoke of the relationship between human beings and the environment. And so did St. John Paul II. He emphasized our relationship as God's creatures with the universe around us. And Pope Benedict himself, the late Pope Benedict XVI, said, if you want to cultivate peace, protect creation.
Yeah, if I can, Barb, one other quick shout out to a professor I had here at St. Ambrose University, Father Bud Grant, who referenced the homily that Pope St. John Paul II gave on October 4th, 1979 at Living History Farms. And we want to make that particular homily available to people in order that they can appreciate that this is not merely something that Pope Francis has merely introduced to Catholic teaching. You've mentioned many previous popes that have spoke so highly of it, but I was not Catholic when Pope John Paul II visited Living History Farms. And as a secular Franciscan on the Feast of St. Francis, I'm grateful to John Paul II for his words, as well as my faculty advisor, Father Grant, who helped educate me on the history of caring for creation that was so integral to our understanding of the faith here in Iowa.
Did you say you have access to that homily? Is that something you're going to share?
We'll have print copies when we have in-person events, but if you look up Pope John Paul II's homily at Living History Farms, if you Google it, it will take you to Vatican resources, and it is one that they have kept. So
I have read that. It's very, very good, as are a lot of his writings anyway. The other thing I wanted to point out is the season of creation talks about a relationship with God, with each other, and with all of creation, right? So it's I do appreciate St. Thomas More's reflections include that individuals deserve respect no matter their viewpoint, and that our senses need to guide us, our ears to listen, our eyes to see, our lips to speak with compassion and understanding, and that we need to work together to resolve disagreements through peace and give value to everyone. And I think that speaks to, we may not all agree about how exactly we need to care for creation, right?
Right.
But maybe if we listen to what each other has to say, we're all wanting the same kinds of things, don't we? We want an earth that we can pass on to the next generations, that they can thrive in and enjoy those sunrises and sunsets, correct?
Absolutely. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, Linda, any other thoughts before we finish up here?
I do think the human element is very important because climate change has affected many people's way of life, and not being able to support your family because you can't grow your crops is pretty significant. So we really want to have all people have dignity. Some of that is dignity from the work that they do. Supporting those people is very important.
Very good. I appreciate so much what both of you have had to say, and I also appreciate something that Pope Francis said towards the end of this letter for Season of Creation, which I think is so really very helpful for all of us. He said that we should recognize that we are tillers of the garden. So we're all tillers of this garden that we live on, and so that is really our opportunity to encourage seeds to germinate and roots to grow. And with that, I would like to say thank you so much to you, Linda, and to Deacon Kent for being a part of this conversation, and I hope to have you back again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Until next
Thank you.
time.